Hi, this is Beth Outram, and in this video I'll be discussing the chart of accounts as a part of the SmartBridge series on J.D. Edwards Finance Best Practices. The topics discussed in this video are based on the assumption that you have read the blog entitled Creating a Chart of Accounts, which is also a part of this SmartBridge series. I'm going to be using an Excel spreadsheet this morning so that I can take advantage of the color filters and the ways that I can show you data. But this is a dump of the chart of accounts from the chart of accounts master. Now, bear in mind that in this particular example, this was designed for a company that is job-centric. Their operating expenses are all under job designations, either capital, customer, or expense. There are also some major divisions within which they want to track assets and expenses. These are not really departments. Many different departments may contribute to each of the jobs. But the groupings within the chart of accounts and the repeating sequence of numbers are what I want to show you because it makes it so easy to find what you're looking for, particularly if you are not an accountant and familiar with the chart of accounts per se. The written portion of the Creating Chart of Accounts goes into theory, recommended strategies, and is specifically how JDE requires that you design a chart of accounts. This video builds on that. So let's go right ahead and start looking at this chart. Of course, the very first thing you're going to see are the assets. And within the assets, I want to show you the divisions or groupings of jobs that I was telling you about. So here you can see that I have them color-coded. So sources supply, pumping, water treatment, transmission and distribution, customer service, and maintenance and general plant are the 6 major groupings that this chart of accounts is divided into. These are integral divisions for the water district. So in order to make it easy for people to find their way around to the right account when they're doing an account ledger inquiry, for example, or job costing, we designed these with a repeating sequence of numbers. You can see, for example, that all of the 3000 numbers are assets for these particular divisions. 3005 for sources supply, 3025 for pumping, 3045 for water treatment, etc. And these groups or divisions are consistently placed throughout the chart of accounts so that I will always find these in order of sources supply, pumping, water treatment, transmission and distribution, where applicable, customer service, and maintenance and general plant. When I say where applicable, you will notice, for example, the customer service does not have any assets assigned to it. So we don't have a section in here in our fixed assets for customer service or in the accumulated depreciation. But you will notice again that these are in the same order for the accumulated depreciation. And they all begin with 34, 3410, 3430, etc. And we have left room for growth as well as for changes that might occur within the district. Recently, these divisions, the sources supply, water treatment, etc., were reorganized and some functions changed divisions. So we left room within our chart of accounts numbering in case of that eventuality. So let's go ahead and look at our color filtering here, and I'll show you another reason why I think this is a very well-designed chart of accounts. We're going to look at our color groupings. So we're going to take just the very first one and we're going to look at that. We're going to say, show us everything in this particular color. Okay? This is source of supply. This is our very first group. So here's source of supply, and we have our subsidiaries as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. You'll notice, though, that down here in our accumulated depreciation, land and other land rights, 0, 1 and 0, 2 respectively, do not appear in accumulated depreciation. Land does not depreciate. So rather than starting here with 01 again and really confusing people, we started with 03. So that structures and improvements is 03 here and 03 here. Percolation pits, 04, 04, etc. Additionally, I'm going to filter this a different way. I'm going to say this begins with 30, and I'm going to take off the color filter. And I want to show you that each of these is exactly the same, except in cases where I'll have assets that are applicable to one particular division but not another. For example, Fabridam. I'm going to have it in the source of supply, but I don't need it in pumping plants. It's not a part of a pumping plant. But you can see that 01 is always land, 02 is always other land rights, 03 is is always structures and improvements, etc., etc. Additionally, we're going to go back to filtering by color again real quick here. And I want to show you what happens down further in the chart when we talk about expenses. Source of supply is made up of expense jobs. It can have capital jobs, but they will not appear in this section, obviously. But when they are closed, they will appear down here under other. So here's my source of supply job, and you can see that 6100 is all source of supply. So all source of supply are these. So then if I, again, take off the filtering by color and say, give me everything that starts with a 6, you'll see that I have, again, my groupings, source of supply, pumping, water treatment, etc. They all begin with a 6 for 6,000, since these are operating expenses and will be on the income statement. But my groupings, again, are very consistent. Source of supply is all 6,100. Pumping is all 6,200. Water treatment is all 6,300. Additionally, notice this, that my last two digits, 01, regular pay, is the same in each of the groups. So if I know I'm going to charge expenses to a water treatment job, for example, for an employee's regular time, I know right away that it's going to be 6301. However, if his time is going to transmissions and distribution, it's going to be 6401. One more trick of the trade that we did with these numbers, and again, let me do this and filter it this way. And you'll notice up in the capital jobs that are 3700s, because they're on the balance sheet, my regular pay is still 01, even though I'm not down here in this 6,000 range. Also, in the general and administrative costs, which are departmental costs as opposed to job-related costs, regular pay is still 0.1. You'll notice that we have kind of a gap here between 6501, which is customer service, the 7001, and then again we have down here general plant. Let me show you why that is. So I'm going to filter again and show you all of the 7,000s. So this is our administrative and general overhead section of the chart. Again, expenses. This is where all of my departmental costs will arrive, or in some cases, company-wide expenses. Now, general plant and maintenance is down here at the bottom of the regular operating expenses. The numbering scheme is the same as far as the last two digits, but it isn't up in the 6,000 section of the chart of accounts because it is more classified as administrative costs as opposed to regular operating costs by job, although they are will still be recorded by job number. So then again, let me show you yet another thing about these expenses. I'm going to take our 6s and 7s and show you a little bit about what's going down in the expense section. So we spoke about our 6,000 range. Again, I mentioned that customer service doesn't have assets. So this is the first place that customer service starts to show up in our chart. I already mentioned that the last two digits are consistent. Also consistent is that where I have expenses that are particular to a department and not across the board, I use 47 as my last two digits to show that this is still an operating expense for a job, but it may be different within my groups of jobs. Okay, so for source of supply, 47 is purchased water. Nobody else does purchase water except source of supply. But down here I have 47 chemicals because that's specific to water treatment. Another thing I want to point out here is 07, administrative and overhead allocations. When charging to jobs like water treatment, transmission, and distribution, we want to take into account not just actual expenses, but things like the overhead of employee expenses that go to the administrative overhead allocations for jobs. So in each of these job sections I have 07 except for customer service. Customer service is considered a part of administration, and therefore you do not put extra or calculated admin overhead on it or on general plant. So you can see, rather than keeping numbering sequentially, I'm going to keep the consistent numbering so that inventory is always 10. And again, up here in customer service, we don't have inventory. We have outside materials, which is 11, and we have outside materials in all our other groups. So this is one of the reasons why I say I think this is a really well-designed chart of accounts, is because It makes it easy to get around. It makes it easy for you to get the right account number if you are not an accounting staff person. It follows all of the GAAP rules, and it makes it easy for you to get reports at a particular level of detail. So for example, if I said all of my level of detail 7, well, if you'll notice, that's the totaling account for all of my groups. So I can see at a glance the net book value for all of my assets by looking for a level 7 in this particular range of account. However, if I expand this just a tiny bit more and I say give me level 6 and 7, I'll be able to see the net book value for my assets for a particular group. I will also be able to see my expenses for that group. So I put this into a video rather than trying to cover it by writing about it, because I think it's easier for you to see how this could be very helpful and very user-friendly chart of accounts, as well as following JDE recommendations and GAAP ruling. Thanks a lot for listening to this video. I'll talk to you again soon as I go through the series of J.D. Edwards Finance Best Practices presented by SmartBridge.